I never thought my Saturday morning would end the way it did. The house was too quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you think something is off, even when nothing obvious is wrong. My son, Ryan, had come home from college the night before. I hadn't seen him in almost a month, and as a mother, I couldn't help but want to fuss over him a little, make sure he had clean clothes, check that he'd eaten more than just fast food, and maybe sneak in a hug or two when he'd let me. I was used to him sleeping in whenever he visited, so when I noticed his door still closed close to noon, I didn't think much of it at first. But a nagging feeling wouldn't let me shake it off. I'd always trusted my instincts when it came to Ryan. When he was a toddler, I could tell when he was sick before a fever ever showed. When he was a teenager, I could tell if something was weighing on him before he even opened his mouth. This morning, that same intuition pulled me toward his room. I remember thinking I'd just peek in quietly. Maybe drop off a fresh load of towels, maybe just check to see if he was breathing under that mountain of blankets he always slept with. I turned the handle slowly and pushed the door open an inch, then two. What I saw made my heart drop straight into my stomach. Ryan wasn't alone. There, in his bed, was a woman I recognized instantly. It wasn't a classmate or a stranger from campus. It was Claire. My Clare. My best friend of nearly 15 years. For a moment I thought I was dreaming. My vision blurred at the edges, and the room seemed to spin. Claire, the same woman who had sat at my kitchen table countless mornings sipping coffee, listening to me vent about work, life, and even about Ryan when he went through his rebellious teenage years. Claire, who had comforted me through my divorce, who had promised she'd always be like family. And now here she was, in my son's bed, wrapped in the sheets of the very house I had built for him. I couldn't speak. My throat tightened like it was closing up, and all I could do was stare. Ryan stirred, his eyes blinking open in confusion before snapping wide in panic when he saw me standing there. Claire shifted too, pulling the blanket closer to her chest, her face pale as if all the blood had drained from it. "Mom," Ryan started, but his voice cracked. He sat up too quickly, fumbling for words that wouldn't come. I didn't shout. I didn't slam the door or scream at the top of my lungs, though a storm was raging inside me. I just stood frozen, every memory I had of Claire flashing through my mind. Every lunch we'd shared, every laugh, every secret whispered late at night. It all felt tainted now, twisted in a way I couldn't comprehend. "I can explain," Ryan finally managed, his voice shaky, but the look on his face told me he had no explanation that would ever make sense. Claire wouldn't even look at me. She stared at the floor, her lips trembling like she wanted to say something but couldn't. I took a breath so deep it hurt my chest. "Get dressed," I said quietly. My voice didn't even sound like mine. It was cold, distant, like it belonged to someone else. Then I turned and walked out, closing the door behind me. In the kitchen, I leaned against the counter, my hands shaking so badly I had to grip the edge just to steady myself. Betrayal has a way of stealing the air from your lungs, and in that moment, I felt like I couldn't breathe. When Ryan finally came downstairs, his hair a mess and his eyes darting everywhere but at me, I saw the boy I had raised, the boy I loved more than anything in this world. But I also saw a stranger, someone who had made a choice that I could never have imagined. Claire followed behind him, dressed now, but her presence felt like a knife twisting deeper into the wound. "Mom, please," Ryan began, his voice desperate. "It's not what you think." "Not what I think." I snapped, the first real spark of anger cutting through my shock. "I walked in, Ryan. I don't have to think. I saw." Claire finally spoke, her voice small. "It just happened. I didn't mean for it to." "Don't," I cut her off sharply. I couldn't bear to hear her excuses. This was the woman who had hugged me when I cried over my ex-husband's infidelity, the woman who had told me I deserved better, the woman who had sworn she'd never betray me. And now she had chosen my son of all people. The silence that followed was heavy, the kind that presses down on your chest until you can hardly stand it. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but the truth was, no answer would ever make it right. Finally, I pointed toward the door. "Claire, you need to leave." She opened her mouth as if to argue, but when she saw the look in my eyes, she shut it again and grabbed her purse. Without another word, she walked out, the sound of the door closing behind her echoing like the end of something I had thought would last forever. Ryan stayed rooted to the spot, his shoulders hunched, his eyes glassy with tears he wouldn't let fall. "Mom, I messed up," he said quietly. "I know I did. But please, don't hate me." I stared at him, my heart breaking in ways I didn't know it could. He was my son. I could never hate him. But I also couldn't ignore the choices he had made, the way he had shattered not just my trust but something even deeper. "I don't hate you," I said finally, my voice shaking. "But I don't know how to look at you the same way right now." His face crumpled, and for the first time since he was a little boy, I saw him look utterly lost. And I realized that this wasn't just about betrayal, it was about what kind of man my son was becoming, and whether I had failed him somewhere along the way. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, the image of Claire in my son's bed replaying over and over in my mind. I thought about all the years of friendship, the trust, the laughter, the promises. I thought about my son, the baby I had carried, the boy I had raised, the man I hoped he would become. And I thought about how, in one moment, everything I thought I knew had been shattered. And I realized something painful. Infidelity doesn't just break marriages. It destroys families. It poisons bonds you thought were unshakable. It takes the people you thought you knew best and turns them into strangers. I never thought I would see what I saw when I checked on my son that morning. And I knew, deep down, nothing in our lives would ever be the same again. Please like and subscribe my channel for more romantic videos.